Hello everybody, welcome to SmileComics. On this episode, I'm going to be drawing the Batman, more specifically the Batman from the new Arkham Knight game, so it's going to have his suit design, and we're going with a profile look to this drawing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so for the first step we want to take here, we want to draw a horizontally stretched oval, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of explain the next couple steps, but once you have this oval drawn, you want to go ahead and make a draw line that's going to be the same height as the top of the oval there as the bottom. Now, we're going to draw Batman gritting his teeth, so once you kind of have these lines down, we're going to do about 3/4 of the way down that oval. You're going to do a horizontal line across. And you want to make sure you have the front and the back of the neck drawn. I'm going to go ahead and throw up an overlay here. Feel free to pause it so you know exactly where these lines are going to lie and where exactly they are supposed to match up with your drawing, okay? So for this next step here, we're going to start working on the eyes and the brow area. So what I like to do here is I try to create a jagged brow line, and then when making the actual eyeball, we're only drawing the side of the eye, so you're not going to make that football shape that you normally make. You're just going to do the half of it, kind of like a stretched out triangle, since it's just half the eye. And then we're going to actually make an eye hole, because this design doesn't have just the white eyes like the cartoon Batman has or the comic book Batman has. He actually has a mask on with eye holes that he paints his, like, he actually paints over his eyes with makeup. So once you kind of have this shape down, we can move on to the next step. From here, we're going to start working on the nose, and what I like to do is 2 curved lines going down, and one's going to be coming from the edge of the brow, one's going to be coming from the front of the face there, and then there's going to be 4 lines that are going to create the bottom of his mask that covers his cheeks there, and I'll go ahead and put an overlay for that. So for the next step here, we're going to start working on the nose, more specifically the bottom half of the nose and the bottom of the face. We're going to draw his teeth being gritted, so he's going to be kind of angry looking, and the lips are just, you know, kind of a stretched out M shape. It's a couple of bumps, and you want to make the actual teeth, we're only going to draw the side of it, so it's going to be kind of like a trapezoid shape, but the top's going to be rounded off a little bit because it's supposed to signify a lip. And once you kind of have the general sketch of that done, when you draw the teeth, all you really have to do is draw a couple of jagged lines in there, and then put a couple of diamond shapes in there that are shaded in, just to signify that there's gaps in his teeth, because, you know, your teeth don't line up perfectly like a grid. They're a little bit offset, and we're just gonna fill in the jawline here. Now for the actual bottom of his mask, I'll go ahead and put an overlay here, but basically it's gonna come off of that 3rd line from the nose, and it's gonna come forward almost like a triangle, and then swoop down to the bottom of the chin, and we're going to draw a little bit of the bottom of his jaw there, like his where his neck connects to his actual jaw. We're going to draw a little bit of that, and I'll go ahead and finish up here with his pupil. Okay, for this next step here, we're going to start adding in more detail into his helmet. This groove here on his helmet, or this slot here, is basically picture an arrow that's bent in the middle a little bit going back, and then we're going to go ahead and add in a groove or a line going around the top of his helmet. Just follow the curvature of his top of his head a little bit, and we'll do a line for the bottom of his helmet, and I'll go ahead and add an overlay so you can see the lines I'm doing here a little bit better, along with the line for his neck guard there. Okay, so for this next part here, we're going to start adding in more definition to his neck. The cool part about this suit, it's designed to be a little bit more functional. So here I'm adding in some ridges into the front of his neck. There's going to be some grooves in there. And the reason I think they did this is because they actually want him to be able to turn his neck. Usually when people draw Batman, his cowl is one solid piece. If you look at his older designs or like the older Michael Keaton movies and things like that, he had to turn his whole upper body to look around. And like in the new Dark Knight movies, they actually gave him a separate cowl for his actual helmet and his neck. They're designed separately and more plated looking in order for him to move his neck. So we're just going to add in these grooves here that are there to let him turn his neck, and we're actually going to draw in a shoulder pad. In the new design here for the game, they added in the shoulder guards here and these upper arm shoulder pads that actually hold in his cape, so his cape is tucked away underneath that. From here we can start adding in the groove for his shoulder pad, and then what we're going to work on next is actually his ears. A good point of reference to put his ears is always directly above where his ear is, and so from here you're just going to basically do a triangle that's, you know, very long and stressed out going up, and you're going to make the back of it a little curvy, so it has a little bit of a I don't know, it's like it's leaning forward a little bit, and you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to make another ear behind it, and it's going to be a little shorter than the one in front because it's farther away, it's on the other side of his head. Okay, from here we're actually going to start inking. You see I started with a pencil first, then I decided to actually do a little bit of inking, so I pulled out my trusty Sharpie, and I'm going to go ahead and do the outlining with my Sharpie. I don't really do a lot of detail with the Sharpie inside of the actual picture. And a good rule of thumb that I use when I'm inking is I like to make the curved edges of things, like the curved outline sections of my picture, I like to make them very thick and bold lines. Usually on the straighter lines I keep it thinner, but when it starts to curve I make the outline a lot thicker. When I'm doing comics, if it's something like anime, I try to make it all a uniform line, everything's the same thickness, the outline is no thicker than the actual lines on the inside of the drawing. But I'm just gonna start off doing a general outline here, and once I get this outline done, and I'm making everything, you know, thicker on the curves and things, but once I get that done, I'm actually gonna go ahead and switch over to a thinner marker, and the thinner markers I use are actually Sakura Micron markers. If you guys haven't used these markers yet, I highly recommend them for inking. They're high quality, they're by far the best markers I've used for drawing, so I highly recommend them. Look them up if you get a chance. They're kind of pricey, but honestly they're a lot better than any markers I found. And basically all I use when I'm inking is, you know, a Sharpie, and I use those Sakura Micron pens in order to get the lines I want. So now I'm going to actually switch over to, you see I'm using a thinner Sharpie here. I didn't end up liking this one because it kind of caught to the paper, but I'm actually going to switch over to the Sakura Micron pen. I'm using a .08 marker, and this is going to give me the thinner lines that I want for doing the outlining, you know, around his eyes, giving him the cowl design that I want. So I'm just going to do some quick shade lines, some speed lines here, and it's going to go from around his cowl, and you'll see where I start laying them down, and you guys can either mimic where I laid down the shadows, or you guys can put them wherever you'd like. But I always like to do a shadows on the outside of his nose, and it actually will go down into his cheek in order to create a cheekbone shadow. And so that always gives a really cool effect to give him some dimension when you're using pens and you're inking things. In other words, this suit here is actually really cool, man. I really like the design that they have for the new Arkham Knight game. The older games were set, you know, as a future Batman, but his suit looks a little bit dated, and the reasoning like that the developers gave behind that was actually because the newer suits were actually like one solid like nanotech bulletproof Kevlar suit, so the whole thing is like has no weak points or whatever. And this one is like an older or a younger Batman. He doesn't exactly know what he needs his suit to be, so he has a bunch of armor plating and things like that. So it looks more advanced, but it actually isn't. But I think it looks way cooler when it has the armor plating, because it looks more feasible, more realistic, more like a possible suit, and I just think that's a really cool thing. And a lot of suits, like in the older movies and things like that, have that campy feel where they try to go for the the solid cowl and things like that, and that's when you get the blocky Batman that can't move very well. And then there's like the Dark Knight that goes with the more realistic suit, which is I think what this suit tried to kind of mimic. And when you go with the more realistic suit, you get a more agile Batman. You can do more crazy stunts and things like that, and I think that's definitely the way to go when doing Batman suits and things like that. So in the past, in one of my videos I drew a Batman before this one. I didn't really like the way that one turned out. That's why I'm drawing this one, because it was a while back ago. So I decided, let's do a new Batman video that I think you guys would enjoy. But man, I'm a big fan of Batman and things like that. I'm a fan of the games. I'm a fan of a lot of superhero stuff, and Batman's definitely in my top favorite superheroes. And if you guys want to see me draw something else, or like me do a tutorial video on any superhero, Marvel or DC, I'll be more than happy to do it. Just let me know in the comments below, and I'll make it happen for you guys. Now, man, I don't know exactly where I'm going from here. I'm getting all tongue-tied and things like that. But yeah, I'm excited about the new game. I was a fan of Arkham Origins, even though that one kind of was made by a different company than the original ones. But it was okay. It wasn't that buggy for me. I didn't have that many issues with it. I know a lot of people had issues with that, but I really didn't, so I enjoyed it. But this one, I believe, is going to be made by High Moon, who made the or no, not High Moon, it was Rocksteady. High Moon's the guys that made the Transformers games. But Rocksteady's going to be doing this one, so that's pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm curious to see the new hero, or the new villain they have, which is the Arkham Knight, who's like an original villain to the Arkham series. He's not in any of the comics or anything. Alright, so getting back to this drawing here, I've been adding in a little bit of shadow and details as we've gone along here. Now I'm kind of giving more definition to where the grooves are, and I'm actually going to darken in some of these grooves a little bit with the Sharpie, and I want to give it almost like a shiny look, but still kind of give it the scratchy look that I want this thing to have. So I'm going to make blobs inside of the grooves in order to make it really dark, but I also want it to look a little bit metallic without giving it too much of a shine or make it look too new. I want it to look, I want this Batman to look a little rugged, and I think I'll do a pretty decent job at making it look the way I want it to. And I'll start adding in a little bit more shadows with cross hatching and things like that. And once I have a general layout of where my shadows are going to be, I think I'm actually going to do some scratch marks with Batman, because I want this Batman to look real rugged and kind of give him just a cool, unique little look to him. As you see, now I'm adding in a little bit of the details on his shoulder pad there that I didn't draw in before, I didn't sketch in. It's just an extra line there to show that there's like a thickness to that shoulder pad, and then there's like an actual screw that's on the front of it, and I'll add some shadow to the front of his cowl, like his forehead, in order to show that there's some shadow there. And remember, you guys can put these shadows wherever you'd like. This is just kind of where I want them to be, but usually if you ever see anybody draw Batman, they always do the shadows where I place them. That's just kind of where they look correct or look right, and I just think it falls well into place there. And I'll add some shadows into that inside piece there, that slot on the side of his helmet. Not sure why they added that in there. It looks kind of cool, but I'm not sure why they added it in. Maybe he just needed some ventilation holes or something. But it's definitely there. I'll make the back horn there a little darker. I could have done this a lot neater, but I didn't. But that's okay. You guys, I'm sure, get the gist of it. So now I'm gonna start adding in some scratch marks and making them look real tough and rugged. And for this, I'm just kind of adding in these zigzaggy kind of lines and straight lines and intercepting them a little bit in order to create this scratchy look. And I'll add a couple to his face. Jim Lee adds a lot of scratch marks to it. That's kind of where I got this from. And it just kind of gives him more character. Like, you can see now that it looks, instead of just a normal regular Batman, it's a little bit more rustic looking, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for. A little bit more, yeah, rugged. From here, I'm going to start adding in, or I'm actually going to start erasing a little bit of our pencil lines just to clean it up a tiny bit. And then I'm going to add in a couple of the finishing details. I'm going to add in a little bit of shading under the nose and to the teeth in order to give his teeth a little bit of depth too. And for that, we're just doing a little bit of shade lines, okay? Alright guys, so that about wraps it up. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here with the finished product of how Batman ended up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you guys want to see some more content by me, feel free to check out some of my other videos. I'll throw them up here on the left. I have a video tutorial on how to use Paint Tool Sai, the program, and how I colored it and inked it. So I'll leave a link to those tutorials on the left. And on the right side, if you want to see something funny, I'll leave a link to my gaming channel. I'll most likely have a video of me and a friend playing Pokemon Soul Silver on the DS, and I think we have the best capture quality on YouTube. It's really funny, so go check that out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.